tutorial. I'm Zero Elite, and I just want to thank you very much for tuning in today's episode. And if you haven't, please don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button, helping me in supporting the channel. I can't thank you enough for that. And of course, be sure to check out the Discord. I'll have a link in the description below. You can always check out that my channel for all the latest updates regarding my YouTube. That will be on Discord, and also just a great place to meet new people. And I've got my next build going on poll on Discord right now. So if you want to contribute and what my next ship build is going to be sure to join the Discord channel, and I have a tab for that. Once you join in, it'll be on the left side, next build pool, and I have a list based off the most requests that I've had on YouTube for certain builds, and that list is as follows: U.S.S. Stargazer, Jem'Hadar Warship, Deep Space Nine and Defiant, Enterprise NX-01, U.S.S. Excelsior, U.S.S. Kelvin, Klingon Warbird, Romulan Valdor type Warbird, U.S.S. Titan, and Voyager. Right now, Voyager is currently in the lead with the most votes, so be sure to join the Discord. Let me know what ship you want to see me build. And yeah, we're just going to jump right into this today because we've got a long one, 35 minutes. Oh man. But it's going to be 35 minutes of well worth it work. We're going to be doing two things today. We're going to be getting some detailing done on the sides of the lower hull, and then we're also going to be working on the neck, adding in our windows on the sides. Now normally when I do my windows, I'd mostly wait until I had my interior established so that I can build all my windows based on where those decks are. But what I've ended up doing with the Enterprise D, I've done this a little bit differently. Not all, but some of my windows on the Enterprise D have ended up being facades. And the reason I've done this is to help me out with the scale of the ship, to help make it look bigger on the outside than it actually is. And this is something that we'll be getting into, maybe not so much now on the neck. You won't notice it too much, but when we start adding in our windows on the saucer section, you'll really understand what I mean by this. Because Enterprise D, it has 42 decks. I mean, it's a massive ship. It really is. And even my Enterprise D, it's actually only half the size of that. My Enterprise D total is only 20 decks tall. But it's still the largest build that I've ever done on Minecraft. This thing is absolutely massive for what it is. And I think it's one of those things where if I even attempted to build a full-scale Enterprise D, I would have had issues with the render, and that's really not something that I actually wanted to do. I wanted to make a point to where when I built this thing that I could see pretty much the whole ship at any angle to help me out with the proportions. The only angle that I can't see the entire ship from is if I go to the very front of the bow and look back at the ship. You can barely see the front of the engines. But with that being said, every other angle of the ship, you can see the whole thing. I'm hoping that whenever I get my hands on the new Xbox with updated graphics, that it'll increase the render distance and I'll be able to see this whole thing at any angle, because that would be pretty cool. I think that this thing, once I can actually see the whole thing from the front, those are some screenshots I really want to get my hands on, so I can just use them for the for some of the pictures of the thumbnails for the episodes, because I think it would be just a beautiful shot. But anyway, getting in a little bit what we got going on today, you can see I'm just every so often with the cut, of course, I'm adding in our windows. And you don't have to do this at any set pattern. You don't have to follow exactly what I did here. But basically what I did, I started off And I went off my bow here, or not the bow, but the bow of the neck. So this is technically the top row that the neck, where this point meets the saucer. Not necessarily the sides, we're not counting that, but that's how I determined that. I went off the top block that it meets off the point here. And I just did every other row. I did a pattern of 4. I skipped 2 blocks, and I did another pattern of 3. And I'm just going to keep going back and doing that. And again, very similarly, how we added in the escape pods, we're basically going to be doing the same thing with their windows. Again, we're not worrying about all the decks matching up right now. Right now, we're just adding in the windows because a lot of these are just going to be for show, just to help us out in making the ship look a little bit more grandiose and a little bit bigger than what it currently feels like, even though it's a massive ship already. But I'm telling you, when this thing is all said and done, it's not going to feel like a 20 deck ship. It's going to feel like a massive ship, and that's our main goal here, is that we want this thing to feel as close as we can to a full-scale Galaxy class. Because this is the other thing too, you know. Let's say that we didn't have an issue with render, and that we just could have built a full-scale Galaxy class. You're talking 42 decks there. That would be a massive undertaking in itself. And let's say that that wasn't an issue, that you could build the ship that size. What you would run into, and I don't care who you are, you're going to have this problem filling in the gaps on the interior. Because what I can tell you is that even where I'm at now, with a 20 deck tall Galaxy class, I'm still having that same problem. So what I've done to compensate that is certain areas of the ship are mega builds on the inside to help take up that interior, but not only to help take up that interior, but to help make the ship feel a little bit bigger. I can only imagine, you know, some of the problems that some other people have had building a Galaxy class. I think the only thing that you could have done to maybe get around it is just having duplicate rooms, massive amount of duplicate rooms just to fill it in. But I don't know. I don't know if I necessarily want to do all that. I mean, because there's going to be some of that on the Enterprise D. I think the only area that we're really going to see that is on my crew deck. But even then, I might have a couple of different classes in quarters. Actually, now that I think about it, I might end up not, because I could be wrong here, but I think, you know, for the most part, pretty much all the quarters, you know, they were the same size. I think like Picard's quarters, Riker's quarters, Troy's quarters, and Star Trek, they look the same. I think the only characters on Next Gen that the quarters look different from what I remember was Worf's and Data's. I remember that they had a different layout, but I don't remember their quarters being any smaller. I just remember it was a different layout, but that might be something that, you know, needs to be a thing. Maybe it's the lieutenant commanders have a different size, or if you're not necessarily, you know, commander or higher, or on that, you know, level of officer, that you would be considered to be, you know, in a lower class apartment, even though the Enterprise D had a massive amount of room. Because that's the other thing too, like, you know, when you think about it, it'd kind of be hard to believe that not everybody would be able to have like a luxury scale apartment on a Galaxy class, considering how big the ships are. But I think more than likely what I'm probably going to end up doing is, like, I'll have like a general officers class cabin, and then, you know, your lower class from like lieutenant commander and lower. I think that might be a way to go, because I'm pretty sure, like, when they had like diplomats and ambassadors and whatnot on Next Generation, I'm pretty sure like the rooms that they stayed in was the set for like Picard's room and Riker's. I could be wrong on that, but if I am, let me know in the comments section, and if you can help me out with a source, I definitely appreciate it. But again, these are the things that I like to think about when I work on my builds on the interiors, because you start thinking about the source material. These are the things that are going to help you to get the most detail out of your ship. As you can even see where we're at right now, we've got a lot of work to do here. We really haven't filled in any of our neck other than our battle bridge. And don't worry, I mean, we'll address that. We're going to come in and we're going to add in some decks here. But at this point in the tutorial, I just haven't really decided what I wanted to do with it yet. What I ultimately end up doing with the neck specifically is that the neck becomes a part of engineering, and then I also add in cargo rooms that are in the neck. I may end up having some more. I was thinking about this actually the other day. I may end up having some more cargo rooms, but I might not. Like, it depends. Because of the way that I have the ship divided, I may not add in those extra cargo rooms. Because the way I did them, the cargo rooms are located underneath the secondary and tertiary shuttle bay. Now, see, one of the issues that we're running into now that we've added in our windows, but we can't really see them. And that's why I went on the inside, because I was adding in those sea lanterns to try to brighten it up so this way we can see. But what's happening is that we can't really see them. So what we're going to be ultimately forced to do here is that we're going to have to throw in some candles. And those of you that have been with me on my channel for a while, you know how I feel about candles. I really don't like to add them. If I can avoid them, I will. That's why I went in with the sea lanterns first, to see if I could avoid doing it. But it's just going to be one of those things where, I want this detail to be seen. Because again, these windows that we're adding in, this is one of the things that we're doing to help us to sell the scale of the ship. So you want to be able to make sure that you can see this stuff. But, I keep talking about it. I've had a few other people start talking about it in my Discord and YouTube channel in the comments section, that if they added in colored blocks, this would totally eliminate this problem. I don't understand why they haven't done it yet. A full range of colored blocks in concrete and some of the other building colors. I think that's just a requirement on this game at this point. And a full range of colored half slabs. I mean, we don't need triangle slabs and things like this. Even though they could do that and it would be awesome, I would actually really appreciate it if they did it. But I think in the minimum at this point, I think Mojang needs to take a break from adding in some of the texture packs that they've added, and add in a full range of illuminated blocks and half slabs, because I think that ultimately it goes right within the building mechanics of Minecraft. You're not really changing anything. You're just giving me and the community more of a variety of things to work with. And, there's a lot of people that have been asking for it. Like, the last time I went on their website on the suggestion tab, there was like well over 10,000 people that were asking for the colored half slabs. So, I mean, why they haven't done it, I really don't know. I mean, maybe one day. I mean, they have been pretty busy working on some of their other projects, with the other versions of Minecraft that they have out there and everything, like Minecraft Dungeons and whatnot. But I mean, I don't know. I'm just hoping that if I keep talking about it, maybe, just maybe, one of two things will happen. Either the community will start talking about it more and demand it to the point that Mojang adds it, or maybe one day I'll get big enough to where they actually care what somebody like me thinks about the game. But we'll see. It's going to be one of those things, though, that I'm probably never going to stop talking about, because I could imagine some of the builds that I'd be able to do if I had just those two key parts. But even though, with this being said, we're taking lemons and turning them into lemonade here. Even with the candles, that doesn't look bad, you know, and you really can't notice them too much from a distance, and it's helping to illuminate our area here. Now, one thing that we haven't added that we're going to be adding, but won't be until later on, is an airlock, because one of the things that I did recently on the build was that I actually added shuttle bay doors on my primary, secondary, and tertiary shuttle bay. And then when that happened, I ended up having no way of getting into my ship. So I went back and I looked on, you know, line the best I could find where the airlock was on the Enterprise D, and it's on the neck. And I added in an airlock so that we can get inside the ship in and out, other than the shuttle bays. Now, of course, you know, once I add in the shuttle bay doors, if you want to leave them open, you know, feel free to leave them open. This way, you've got, you know, extra room to go off of here. But I just wanted to make a point to add them so that people can, you know, get an idea of what they could do. Maybe not necessarily what you have to do, just what you could do. I'm not gonna lie, I might even at one point come back and take them out just so everything's open. I don't know though. But kind of what I've been doing with my last couple of builds, I did the same thing with the Disco era Enterprise as well as the 2016 Enterprise A, where once I built in the shuttle bay doors, I just left. Excuse me. I just left it closed and moved on. You can see even here right there on the neck, I wasn't worrying about building in all the way until I hit the center. Because those decks, that's what I'm talking about, where those are going to ultimately just end up being facades. You can see I'm not building the next row down directly underneath the previous row. I went back by one, so this way it's kind of going at an angle a little bit. This key point here, just want to make sure that what we do on the right side, again, we do it on the left side. This other thing too, I promised you, like when you start adapting that building step, it really will make your building process a heck of a lot easier, because you're not going to have to think as hard to what you're going to have to do, because you've already done the work. You just have to repeat the process again on the other side. We're just doing it one row at a time. And, you know, again, you know, you don't necessarily have to follow the exact pattern that I'm doing right here. This is just meant to kind of give you an idea of what you have to do. You can really add your windows in any arrangement here on the neck. But I can tell you what I am doing. I am looking at a picture of the Enterprise D from the neck, and I'm just using it as a reference to give me an idea of some of the placement. Now, even when we're done today, what I end up having is only like a fraction of the amount of windows that the Enterprise D has. Because that is probably maybe one of the things that I could say that the Enterprise D and Enterprise E, they just had a little bit too much of, was the windows. It seemed like they had just a little bit too much than what they should have. That's kind of like where I liked how the hulls looked on, like, you know, the TOS era ships, because they felt like more like a spaceship. It didn't feel practical to have just so many windows on a ship covering the outside of it. But you can again make the argument, well, you know, it's next generation, you know, it's better technology and all that jazz, so they can get away with it. But I think sometimes less is more. You don't want to, especially on Minecraft, you don't want to have so many windows to the point that your hull lines are getting lost because it's just filled with nothing but windows. Just continuing this on, adding in another row. We're looking pretty good so far. So we've got about 16 minutes left in today's episode. I'm just going to let it ride out so that you guys can see all the steps that I took today. Because that is something I'm trying to do. As much as I can, I'm trying to show every single step that I've made on this build, unless it's being super repetitive. Some of the stuff today is because, like, what we're doing on one side, we're doing it on the other. I think maybe what I could have done a little bit differently for this build was that just focus on one side, and then once I was done, go over to the other side, just to help me out with time. But then that kind of would have gone against how I build in Minecraft. That if you do one thing on one side, you do it on the other. This way, you're not making it nearly as many mistakes. So it is what it is. Every once in a while we'll have a long video here and there like this. I think it's necessary, so like I said, we'll just kind of let it ride out. There's definitely some other things I can kind of talk about while this episode's going. The next looking fantastic though. Definitely digging how that's looking. I don't know if anybody caught Star Trek Discovery this week. Wasn't necessarily a bad episode. I thought it was cool that, you know, they were going after Booker and the other guy that they want to destroy that singularity. I don't know, like, some of the episode, it kind of reminded me a little bit of TOS. I thought it was interesting how, like, they had a card game. That was kind of cool. But, like, I don't know. The one thing that I have that's sticking with me with Discovery, and it was the same thing with Picard. With Star Trek, like, I missed the serialized approach to the shows, because you weren't shackled that if a storyline wasn't working, you had to continue it on throughout the season. You could just move on to other things. It wouldn't be a big deal. And I think that's like my biggest gripe with Discovery, because, like, if you go back now and watch Discovery, season 2, 3, and 4 have been basically the same thing, where it's kind of been like this whole plot line to discover this. It's pretty much been like a mystery, you know. And don't get me wrong, I love mysteries, but the thing with Star Trek is that, you know, Star Trek was always kind of like a platter of different types of storytelling, and I wish that they would get a little bit back to that with Discovery. I think I'd enjoy it more. With that being said, Star Trek Strange New Worlds is going to be coming out here in the not too distant future. I think it comes out in May, and I'm looking forward to that. And from what I've heard from with the Strange New Worlds, that is going to be serialized. So I think that Paramount is going to be surprised with that. I think that that show is going to be really good. Because it's going to force them to tell new stories, you know, and not just focus on one pre-existing plot line throughout the season. Now, you know, that's not to say that if, you know, like one of the episodes are really good, that's not to say they can't do sequels to it. They did that in Next Generation all the time, where they do 2-parters and 3-parters, and then like a season later they do like a follow-up on a previous episode. So, I mean, you can get away with doing stuff like that. I just kind of wish that they would bring it back to more of the serialized approach. They could do a heck of a lot more and cover a lot more ground and have a lot more variety than what they currently do. Now, talking about a little bit what we got going on here with our phaser banks here, you can see that I'm slightly adjusting our corners here of our oval. And the reason I did that is because like those four corners there, they were kind of standing out a little bit. I wasn't really feeling it, how they were looking. They looked a little bit, it wasn't looking as much like a circle. Sometimes you can do stuff like that with these corners. We're going to do something like that again for the lower hull, in fact. But for the upper side of the saucer, we got pretty lucky. But like, I mean, basically like it's forking outward, what it was doing before, and that's kind of like why I was sticking out in my eye, and I wanted to go back and fix that. Because I think that now when we go back after this has been adjusted, we're going to be in pretty good shape. Now we've got one more corner, and then we'll be caught up. Of course, we want to go back again and trim up our half slabs, make sure it's going with the cut line. There we go. Yeah, see, that looks so much better than what we had before. I hated how it was forking outwards. It wasn't looking right. You see, stuff like that, like you can totally get away with doing that. And see, now, like our circle doesn't look messed up before, or doesn't look messed up at all, in fact. But before, where they were kind of like forking in this way and in this way on all four of these corners here, it didn't look right to me. But that looks awesome. That's just a little cheat that you can do sometimes. Your circles aren't coming out right, or in this case, your ovals. Where you can make a slight adjustment there in those corners and get away with it. Like I said, that's something that we're going to be doing to the underside of the saucer as it sloped down, because that was one of the things that I wish I had done differently. We just didn't have the time to do it, and that was using more of the pixel circle generator to build that dish on the lower side of the saucer, because it got a little bit pixelated as we went. But as we go in the tutorial series, I'm going to show you guys how you can fix that without double tapping the pixel circle generator and spending countless hours trying to fix it. And it's going to be pretty much exactly what we just did a few moments ago, just making a slight adjustment to our oval to make it work a little bit more. Now, one thing we're going to be doing, I'm not going to be doing this going all the way around live, but what you just saw just a second ago with me adding in with the cut line, taking out a row on the inner side of our phaser banks, and then coming back with the half slab. We're doing this just to give it a little bit more 3D texture. And if I am going to continue going, which it looks like it, I'm just going to fast forwarding. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's where I stop at, and then I'm going to skip to the next part after it's been completed. So we're going to do that going all the way around, then we're going to come back with a row of half slabs, just like what you see right there. And this way you'll have the finished product like what we have right now. So now we're going to start adding in some hull lines. I want to make sure you're going off the middle of our right side. Say skip the phaser banks. We're not going to be bringing this going all the way down. We're only going to be bringing this down to a certain point here. I think originally I had this coming all the way down. But if I'm not mistaken, I think we're actually only going to bring that to the first or second white concrete line. And now we're not doing anything fancy, literally just repeating that same step that we did on the right side, but now we're doing the left side. Yeah, you can see I'm stopping just one short that hull line, but ultimately what I decide is that it ends up being too much. And in fact, we're going to be coming back and swapping out this color half slab for a different color half slab, more of a gray. Because right now what I'm doing is I'm trying to build it how I would normally do my hull lines, where I'm bringing it down by a half block, giving us just a little bit of hull line. But it ends up not looking nearly as good, especially as we go downwards. And then I just end up using a completely different color and then just kind of making it flat. But, I mean, here's the thing. If you like how that looks, I mean, you could technically leave it like that, I guess. This is the thing, about these builds, they're not set in stone, And I try to show all this stuff so that you can get that variety and the different ways to approach this, because I'm showing you how to do it this way. Then I'm also going to show you how to do it with a different color and then just having it flush. It'll be just two different ways of approaching this thing. Yeah, because I mean, it doesn't necessarily look bad to what I have going on right now. I just wanted a color on this line, so this way you can see the line a little bit better. I think that was the main reason on why I did what I did, and then I just decided, to stop the cut from being so drastic. Oh, I know why. It's because when we go at the angles, we're going to have a hard time with the cut lines here. So that's why we're only going to be going down to a certain point here, because once we get to these corners, we're going to have a heck of a time making those cut lines work. And then that was the reason why I adjusted it. I completely forgot about that. Now, you're going to spot a mistake here, and this is something that ties into what I had done on this side. That this block right here should have been over by one more. So what we're about to see here is that this thing is going to be too wide because of based off what I have my center here, but in reality it should only be one wide. And this is entirely because I have this side is off center. It's funny because this is something I actually just recently fixed. That's why I was able to spot it out. Yeah, once we fix it, because right now it's 4, but once we move this over by 1, then it's going to be 5. So we'll have a center because we'll have 2 on this side and 2 on this side. And if you count out from this 1, 2, 3, your third row here is your dead center. But I completely missed that little minor mistake that I made before, and that's why this is turning out the way that it did. But this is why it's so important to pay attention to what you're doing all the time, because even when you're doing that, you can easily make a mistake, just how I'm doing right now, and I'm off centering the very middle of my build. And it doesn't even look like it because of the way that I have those 2 gray squares on each side. You can't even tell. And it's funny because when this happened, I was like, oh man, like this is too wide, like this is going to be terrible, like I don't want to make this too wide, it's going to throw off the whole ship. And I just kind of went with it. It was like, okay, whatever, like there's nothing I can really do about it, so I'll just embrace it. And then when I realized that no, it wasn't really too wide, I just messed up on this right side, I was so happy, because then I can get rid of this ridiculous too wide strip that I had going on here. Now we're not doing anything crazy, we're just following the cut line. Just bringing this, going all the way down to second to last block. Again, we will be making 2 adjustments to it. One, like I said, getting rid of this left side and just having it be 1 block in the dead center like it should be before I made that mistake. And then we'll be changing the color of this thing and moving it back a little bit so that it's not coming down as far. Because like I said, on the straightaways here, it doesn't look so bad, but once we start hitting these corners and we start adding in more of these things, like I'm planning on doing, it's going to be a problem, because on the Enterprise D, it has a lot more hull lines than like a Constitution class or any type of ship that has a circle as opposed to an oval. There's just going to be a lot more. But I think that's going to wrap us up today. We flew through 35 minutes, the longest episode of this week. And yeah, I'm pretty happy with the amount of work that we've gotten done. We still have a ton of work to do, but I definitely think that's going to wrap us up today. I just want to thank you all again for tuning in today's episode. And if you did enjoy this content, please help me out. Hit that like and subscribe button, helping me in supporting the channel. I can't thank you enough for that. And new subscribers, don't forget to hit notifications on, so always get notified when those new videos drop. And speaking of new videos, you can always catch my new Minecraft videos dropping Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays, and Saturdays at 7 p.m. And of course, if you have any questions, we're just dropping by to say, hey, be sure to drop a comment below or join the Discord. I'll have a link in the description below. It's definitely a great place to join, especially for all the latest updates regarding the YouTube channel. But anyway, that's going to wrap it up for me today. I just want to thank you all again for tuning in.